Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, Democrats.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Democrats.
I heard a foghorn that time. Let's try to get it together. Everybody in here, everybody on Zoom, on mute this time. Everyone find a seat. Good evening, Democrats.
Good evening, Democrats.
Democrats.
Oh, yeah, we got sound effects going today, guys. This is great. Okay, welcome everybody in here, out there. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're now 6 days away from primary day here in California. Who here has already voted? Raise your hand. All right, round of applause. Who's still waiting until the last minute to vote? Okay, we got to check the polling, make sure we know who's up and who's down. Our club mailer went out to more than 27,000 households here in Santa Monica. So thank you, everyone who helped to make that happen. On Sunday, we met up at Virginia Avenue Park to get out the vote for our first primary canvass of the year. We were joined by Michael Tubbs, Shai Roy, Ben Allen, Tony Vasquez, and Ryan Dibble. So thank you for stopping by, those who were there. If you missed it, if you want to come back, we have one more scheduled this Saturday, May 30th. If you can join us, we'll be at Clover Park. We're going to launch at 10 a.m. We're going to launch at noon. This time we're going to have Shai there. We're also going to be joined by our superintendent candidate, Nichelle Henderson, and our endorsed attorney general candidate, Rob Bonta. So we're very excited for that. Please stop by if you can. Most of you guys know this already, but face-to-face conversations with our neighbors is the most efficient way to get the vote out. People are more distrustful of attack ads, and we all tune out all the mail that we get and social media ads. If we have a few dozen canvassers who can knock on the doors and have 10 great conversations, those voters talk to their friends, and we can expand that into hundreds of votes. That's how democratic organizing works. So we hope to see you this Saturday at the canvass. What's coming up for the Dem Club after the primary? It's already time for the club to shift gears toward the local Santa Monica elections. I see a lot of our candidates running for local office are here with us tonight, so thanks for being here. Their candidates are announcing for city council, for school board, for rent board, for college board. And last week, the Dem Club sent out questionnaires to everyone who has either declared they're running, or we heard maybe they're running, or there's a rumor about it. If you know someone thinking about running for local office, please encourage them to reach out to request our questionnaire. The responses are due June 8th, so it's coming up already, and the members will then receive all of the unedited responses soon after that. The board is then going to conduct candidate interviews, and we'll follow that by 2 public debate nights right here at the Church in Ocean Park on this stage. July 1st, we'll have the rent control board, the school board, the college board candidates, and then on July 8th, we'll have the city council candidates, and then the following week, July 15th, on Zoom, we'll have our endorsement voting meeting for all of those races. And remember, if you want to participate in endorsement voting, you have to join the club by June 15th. Okay, speaking of endorsements, we actually have one more endorsement still to make for our primary ballot, Measure ER. This is the half-cent sales tax to cover Trump's health care cuts. We actually missed this one a few months ago when we were doing the rest of our endorsements. But for the completists out there, for the people who are holding their ballots to wait to see what the Santa Monica Dem Club does on Measure ER, now we're going to find out tonight. So I want to see if the assembly member is here before I introduce him.
Yes.
Here, okay, I see him. Okay, so we're pleased to be joined by former Assembly Member Miguel Santiago. He's going to represent the Yes on ER campaign. Now, I researched this, and our team looked into it and found that the only public opponents are Republican Supervisor Catherine Barger and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Institute. So we're not going to platform those individuals. Instead, we'll just first ask, is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition officially? Okay, so not seeing any, then instead what we'll do is, after Miguel speaks, we'll ask if anyone has any questions, and he can address the concerns that people might have. All right, so in that case, let's hear from Miguel, and then we'll open the floor to questions. And just one more note, procedurally, unless there's any objection, we'll hold the endorsement voting on this until the end of the night, and we'll pair it with the AB 1740 vote on a single ballot. Okay, so let's welcome Miguel Santiago.
Hey folks, how are you? And this is awesome how you do a hybrid meeting.
Hold on, let's get your volume up on our end, Miguel, 1 second. He's on Zoom. Okay, 1 second, 1 second,
Sure.
We're getting you. Yeah. There he is. You got it? Over here, Nate. Yeah. Okay. Let's get his audio. Okay, go. You're good.
Hey, thank you very much, and thank you for all the folks who are on here tonight. I'm extremely grateful to be here, and congratulations for all the hard work that you're doing. And I got just a second to tune in earlier to see all the precinct walking you do and all the touching base with folks, and that definitely makes a difference, particularly now when we can pick up the House if we do our work and pick up the right seats in California. Then we're on our way of grabbing back that gavel and stopping the Trump administration. So thank you very much. But until then, we've got a number of measures that we've been working on. Measure ER, I'll explain a little bit why we need it, what it is, and then hopefully earn your endorsement. So Measure ER is what the Board of Supervisors put on the ballot to counter Trump's big, beautiful, bad MAGA bill that they passed, also known as HR 1. What that did to LA is it punched about a $750 million hole in this healthcare system. Now, that's notwithstanding everything it's done across the state. That's notwithstanding all the different attacks that they've had and all the different pots of money that they've managed to destroy with HR 1. But what happened here in our own backyard, when it punches a hole that big, we've got a devastating effect where 4 hospitals can close in LA County, be severely impacted. You get about 550 clinics that could be hit pretty hard. This is also backyard to 1 in 3 patients depend on Medi-Cal. You have a 5,000 person workforce. So this has a huge impact. So what the Board of Supervisors did with the lone Republican voting no is pass what's called Measure ER. And let me tell you what that does. What that does is a temporary half-penny sales tax increase for only 5 years. That brings close to about $1 billion in revenue between now and 5 years. And what that does is it keeps us sustainable during the time that the next 2 years of the Trump administration, and it gets 2 years for the new president, a Democratic president, if we all do our job, and a Democratic both House and Senate to be able to pass back a bill that brings back some reasonable dollars home. And we've never seen ever seen anything like this before, where we have a bill that actually guts funding across the board. And this is really important the way the Board of Supervisors did it, because unlike any other thing that they've done, they went ahead and specified where the dollars are getting used. So for example, the first pot and the biggest pot, which is 45%, goes to clinics and nonprofit providers. The second biggest pot is 22%, and that goes to hospitals and clinics, public hospitals and public clinics, I should say. And then there, for example, there's also a 5% set aside for reproductive health services. It's also we also know that as like Planned Parenthood. There's a 5% also for nonprofit safety hospitals. And then there's smaller cutouts like IHSS, et cetera. But all this is to say is that the Board of Supervisors passed specifically where it'll be spent and a timeline. And unlike anything we've ever seen on a ballot, it has strong independent citizens oversight. It has an annual public audits that will be released, and it has clear definitive expiration date. And I want to specify that over and over, and it's just to get us across. So this is a measure that is very important. If we don't pass it, we stand to be devastated, and our healthcare system will suffer for it. And this is one of those things where it impacts everyone. Even if you have the best Cadillac insurance and you don't think about a clinic and you don't think about hospitals, public hospitals, it will, or nonprofit hospitals, it will impact you because when a emergency room is clogged, it's going to impact everybody. When the response is slow, it's going to impact everyone. And we've seen now over COVID how important our healthcare system is, and how important it is for folks to get preventative care. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have this passed. It's on the June ballot, and because we know you're an important organization, we have reached out to you folks to humbly ask you for your support. Now, let me tell you who else is supporting, and we have unlikely allies who are supporting this. We have the Clinic Association, who is usually on opposite ends of some of our labor partners like SEIU 2015, who have joined hands and said, let's get this done. We have organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade, all the way to the Democratic Party of Los Angeles. We have Asian Dems and a whole host of different Democratic organizations, which I can go through. We have Planned Parenthood, and we have hundreds of nonprofits who have endorsed this measure. And yes, nonprofits can endorse a ballot measure in case anybody had that question, and they can spend up to about 15% of their resources on a ballot initiative. But they can't endorse candidates in case anybody thought about that. So yeah, there are hundreds of nonprofit organizations across LA County who are supporting this because they know if we don't fund our healthcare system, we all worse off for it. So thank you very much, and I hope to earn your support and was brief to hopefully answer any questions that anyone might have.
Great. Thanks so much, Miguel. Great to hear from you.
Thank you.
And now let's see if there's any questions. Does anyone have any questions about Measure ER? Oh, okay, Victor. Oh, you got to unmute first. Well, no, there you go. Okay.
Can we comment with our opinion on it? Because I believe in this and I do have a perspective on it. Would that be appropriate, Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a new member of the club since the beginning of the year, and this item was on another club that I've been a member of for a very long time, the West Hollywood Beverly Hills Democratic Club. When we got to our meeting, there was no endorsement, there was nothing. I pulled it off the calendar because I felt off the consent calendar. This is a very important item. There's a $2 billion shortfall. When I talked with the group, we voted. Unfortunately, my club voted yes, 45%. We need a 60%, and no, 55%. And I hope that our more progressive club here will vote in favor of this very important procedure. It's only 5 years. It increases the taxes a little bit. And when I go to Nate and Al's and order a $30 pastrami sandwich, this additional tax will be 15 cents on the delicious pastrami on rye with the pickle on the side. So I urge our club here in Santa Monica to vote for this important measure, which does sunset after 5 years. And I don't want to be in the back of an ambulance wondering what emergency room I may be able to be admitted into. And I wish that my mother club had voted to support and endorse this important health measure.
Thank you, Victor. Out here in my neck of the woods, we have Langlers, so we'll rival.
You got a huge applause in the room here, Victor. Okay, Andrew. Hold on. Nate? Okay, you should be good, Andy.
Steve Tarzinski has his hand up too when you're...
Someone else does? Yeah, Andrew, you're totally muted. No one can hear you. Okay, he's going to try to fix it. Patricia, did you say you...
Yes, Steve Tarzinski, do you want to talk while Andrew gets ready?
Yeah. Steve.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I think as many people know, the Trump administration has imposed devastating cuts on our healthcare services in the state, and especially Medi-Cal, which covers about one-third of California residents and about half of our children. I'm a retired physician, but I practiced in LA County for over 50 years, and I'm a longtime healthcare activist for healthcare reform, including Medicare for All, and a longtime member of the Democratic Club. The ballot on June 3rd is, as our speaker mentioned, we'll just have a temporary half-cent sales tax. It's temporary in order to preserve our trauma services, our ERs, our safety net hospital services, our community clinics, and our Planned Parenthood facilities. It's a regressive tax, but this is an emergency, and the tax is temporary, as our speaker said, and will be phased out by 2030. It will have an independent citizen oversight group, and all the funding will go directly to support the services mentioned. And it should be clear that this is not an expansion of services, but a way to preserve existing services. And if it doesn't pass, we could see the closure of at least one county hospital, probably Martin Luther King. Again, Contra Costa County has already passed a similar measure, and we hope that if Measure ER is approved, many other California counties will follow suit, and the state legislature could also consider and pass a similar statewide law. And these federal and possibly state cuts are hard-won victories that we have achieved to broaden health insurance coverage in our state, including Medi-Cal. So we should defend our achievements, and instead of going backward, we can move forward to our ultimate goal, which is universal coverage. So I urge everybody, as a physician, a longtime Democratic Club member, and a longtime healthcare reform activist, to vote yes on Measure ER.
Steve, that was one of the best presentations I've ever heard on it.
Yeah. Yes. Sure.
Well, actually, I want to start by saying, hi, Steve. I read every letter you submit to the LA Times. So I've always wondered who you are. Now I know. My question is more so I have a better understanding overall. I thought Santa Monica is currently at the maximum sales tax that we can apply. Does this go above that maximum? Does this displace other taxes? How does that work? That's all I want to know. I probably support this anyway, but I just need to understand how this works. Are we exceeding the maximum? Are we displacing another tax?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Andrew. I was here just to present on the ballot measure, so I didn't mention the legislative companion effort that is happening in Sacramento, which Mr. Bryant, Assemblymember Bryant, is pushing to raise the cap by about 0.5% to allow that to happen. So I believe it's at the governor's desk now, and he has about 30 days to either sign or veto, and that would lift it by that 0.5% to allow for this to happen. I happen to have worked on it in the past on this particular area, so I'm pretty familiar with how it works. But let's say, for example, my gut tells me the governor will sign it, and Steve pointed at Contra Costa, which he's absolutely accurate. That's why they were able to get so much support across the legislature for it. And there are other counties that are now talking about it potentially going up potentially towards November, though that ballot is crowded and will be crowded. Let's just say in the worst case scenario, it didn't happen. My gut tells me that it will, okay? But let's just say that for some reason this legislation didn't exist or the governor just vetoed it. It wouldn't replace any taxes. Those who are at the cap would stay at the cap. And then what would happen is those who weren't at the cap would pay for it. Kind of like what happened with Measure H, if you recall. Way back when it happened, I can't remember the year, I want to say 2018. What happened is that the county went out and said, hey, we're going to establish a new program. Very different than this. So I want to be very clear. This is a sustainment of current programs that exist that are traditionally funded by the federal government that today are not funded. So very different. But when the county went out and said, we're ready to do Measure H, I want to say 2018, what they did was pass it, didn't lift the cap. So there was, I don't remember, I'm going to guess, so don't hold me to this, about 10 to 13 cities or so that weren't paying into that pot because they were already at their limit. You can't knock off one, you can you can you can get to the limit, and that would be where you would be at. I hope that answers your question well.
I think what I hear you saying is if the governor does not sign that bill, then Santa Monicans don't pay this tax. Everybody else does.
Correct. And there's a couple of other cities that are also tapped out. But look, my gut tells me that the governor signs it.
Okay. Thank you. That's very succinct and useful.
And put it on the video so you're in the picture.
John, we have a couple more questions here.
Go ahead, Darlene.
Yeah, I have just a quick question. I was all set to say, yeah, I want to do this. But then when I was reading the literature, it says that this money just goes in the general fund and it's not directed to help for hospitals and care and whatever. And I came in late, so maybe you already addressed that. But how do you guarantee that the money goes to where you're advocating it for?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question. That was what I started off with earlier, talking about the Board of Supervisors resolution that breaks up where the dollars will be spent. And 45% of it goes to community clinics and nonprofit providers. That's a 45%. Second chunk is 22% that goes to public hospitals and clinics. I mentioned that 5% goes to reproductive health services such as Planned Parenthood. 10% goes to the Department of Public Health to support core public healthcare functions. And then there's a certain breakdown that they did for that are like 2%, 2.5%. So it's already stated when the Board of Supervisors passed it. And then that's why there's strong oversight. There's annual audits that will be released publicly about how those dollars are spent. And I think the reason they did it in the way that they did it was because when you do it as a general, it goes up. What was explained to me is it goes 50 plus 1. When you do kind of like that earmark budget, then you go to like 2/3 vote. And so it was easier to go for my guess is it was easier to go for a 50 plus 1 vote. But that's why the Board of Supervisors passed that resolution stating that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's give the last word to Stacy.
Hi, thank you. And thank you for coming today
Thank you,
to
Stacey.
address this issue. I have a couple of things. One is, I try to not support regressive taxes. And so could you just address that? Because that is a concern of mine, even though I, of course, will probably support this, but I am concerned about that.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I mean, look, here's the bottom line, though, and this comes from the guy who represents the second poorest district in the state of California. But no one depends on this more than if you're on the lower economic levels. I mean, if you are a Medi-Cal recipient at a time when the state, look, and I wouldn't have supported this, but at the time when the state actually put a charge on those who were immigrants at $30, and today they're doing, I think the legislature's talking about $50, and there's continuous cuts to healthcare benefits in different categories of Medi-Cal. This is more important than ever because it sustains the healthcare system that it would otherwise not be able to give you healthcare. If you are those who are the working class communities, you're more dependent on public hospitals, public clinics, or nonprofit hospitals and nonprofit clinics because more than likely you don't have health care. So it is a lot more expensive for folks to land in the emergency room, lose days of work. It's a lot more expensive and painful to be sick than to get preventative care. And in fact, as I mentioned earlier, when you take a look at LA County and as I was told, one out of every 3 folks who has healthcare coverage is Medi-Cal inscribed. This is probably one of the most important measures that will pass for those who are struggling, those who are working class communities, and those who are not adequately funded. Have healthcare coverage. And I'll also say we got to also keep in mind that in HR 1 there was a severe cutback to the Affordable Health Care Act subsidies. So there's even more reason to sustain our healthcare coverage in Los Angeles County.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, thank you, Miguel, for being here.
Thank you.
To see you, and we'll be voting a little bit later in the evening, but appreciate you speaking about this measure. So,
thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm glad to be able to see you. It's been a minute.
Great.
Thank you.
I told Stacy she would have the last question. So, did you have a point of order or just? Okay. Okay. Well, go ahead. If you're gonna. Sorry, we already said, but
Sure.
there's one more question from somebody.
An earlier person brought up that there was wording in the bill about it going into the general fund. And I understand all the explanation about how it's been parsed out. These seem to be in conflict. I'd like to know about that.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned earlier that the
hold
county
on.
board of
Yeah.
county board of supervisors had passed it in such a way to require 50% plus one, but they had language to ensure that the breakdown was the way that I explained it: 45% to community clinics, nonprofit providers, as being the largest chunk. The second, 22% for public hospitals and clinics. Likewise, there would be annual audits to demonstrate that those dollars are being used in that particular way.
Okay. Did you follow
But
up?
I appreciate the question, and I've heard the concern, but I just want to explain it as I understood it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Miguel. Appreciate you being here.
Sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, folks, and thank you for your good and hard
Miguel.
work. Thank you.
Okay, so next up, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about something that's been deeply affecting our community for the last few years, the ICE enforcement sweeps that have been happening across California and the whole country under what the Trump administration calls Operation at Large. Now, Santa Monica joined a lawsuit challenging some of these tactics, and tonight we're joined by some attorneys involved in the case who are going to help explain what's actually happening on the ground, what this legal fight is about, and what role cities like Santa Monica are playing in pushing back. This is obviously not a theoretical for a lot of people. These raids and enforcement actions have created real fear for families across our whole region, and that's why we prioritize making time for this conversation tonight. So to lead us in the discussion and introduce our guest, I'm going to turn it over now to our membership vice president, Michael Soloff.
So good evening, everybody. We're joined tonight by two attorneys who are working on this fight. We have here with us in the room Sarah Worth. Sarah is a litigation attorney at the law firm of Munger, Tolles & Olson in the Los Angeles office, and she is one of the attorneys representing the individuals and the organizations that first brought the lawsuit challenging these tactics. And with us on Zoom, we have Grace Davis Fisher, who's a litigation attorney at the San Francisco office of Munger, Tolles & Olson, and she is one of the attorneys representing the local governments, including the city of Santa Monica, in challenging these same tactics. So, Sarah, I think everybody probably saw on TV and remembers all of the enforcement actions that were going on here in Los Angeles. Can you remind people, though, it's been a while and a lot else has happened in the world, unfortunately, what it was that we started seeing happening here about a year ago?
Yes. Hi, everyone. How's the volume? Good? So, of course, ICE has always been here conducting immigration enforcement, not always necessarily lawfully. So I'll just stipulate that. But I think what's remarkable about what we've seen over the past year is just the scale of lawbreaking. Obviously, President Trump ran on a campaign of mass deportations. And what that means on the ground in reality to effectuate that is mass arrests. And that's exactly what you saw the government sort of operationalize beginning in around June of 2025 in Southern California. That's where they kind of brought this home. And you saw this enormous pressure from the top to boost the numbers of arrests and to, in fact, impose, it's widely reported, imposing quotas of the number of arrests, sort of significantly increasing the amount of arrests. And that means street arrests. In order to get to mass arrests, you need to stop large numbers of people and detain them and question them and then bring them in. And so essentially you saw them setting up these dragnets. going out into the community and arresting people sort of on site without knowing who they were beforehand. And so, what we saw change operationally on the ground, we saw change in the way that ICE and Border Patrol really operate. So ICE, instead of kind of working up a case and getting a warrant and going after a particular person, which was policy before, being allowed and encouraged to go after anyone who they saw. And then what you saw from Border Patrol is, whereas they are normally at the border, policing the land borders and ports of entry, you saw this sort of mass incursion into the interior and conducting this interior enforcement, including in urban environments, not just Los Angeles, but you saw this in other cities as well. So that's really the operational change, and what we experienced on the ground in the community was this invasion of typically masked, heavily armed federal officers, either in plain clothes, so you didn't know who they were and if they were law enforcement, or in, full uniform in sort of large formations, stopping people based really on how they looked and where they happened to be, what kind of work they perform, and that's sort of characterized the operations over the past year.
So here in Southern California, did they have a name for this operation?
There are a few names floating around. We heard mention already of Operation at Large. That was kind of a moniker that was placed on these operations, which are, it's really not the people who are at large, it's actually the agents who are at large and sort of let loose in our communities. But there's sort of city-specific names that have been thrown around too, like Operation Midway Blitz. These aren't necessarily operations in the way we might typically think about them, which is like we're going to go to a place on this day looking for these people and enforce the law. It's just sort of an umbrella term for these kind of what you would call roving patrol operations, strike team operations, various terms. But Operation at Large was the moniker of choice.
And so who brought the initial legal challenges to these dragnet efforts?
So in our case, Vasquez Perdomo versus, well, I guess it's Mullen now, it was Noam, but Pedro Vasquez Perdomo is one of our individual plaintiffs. We have 5 individual plaintiffs. 3 of them were stopped and ambushed at a bus stop, waiting to be picked up to go to work. And just sort of, officers jumped out of the car, ran at them, didn't know anything about them before stopping them, and hailed them in. And then 2 other individual plaintiffs who are United States citizens, one born and raised in East LA, both of whom were stopped and, physically, coercively stopped, in fact, without any reason to believe that they were unlawfully present in the United States other than perhaps their race and their job. And then we've got organizational plaintiffs. So we're working with United Farm Workers, CHIRLA, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights Los Angeles, and the LA Worker Center Network, which is a network of worker centers, including the Clean Car Wash Worker Center. So their members are car wash workers who were and remain heavily impacted by these operations.
And in addition to Munger Tolles, did you have co-counsel?
We have a lot of co-counsel. We have a huge attorney team because we're also not only challenging these sort of stops and enforcement practices at the beginning of the pipeline, but also the conditions in which people are being held. So we have a huge team. It includes the ACLU, the National Day Labor Organizing Network, the UC Irvine Clinic, and a bunch of other partners, Public Counsel. We've got a big team fighting in this case.
And I guess they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Do you have some video that you can share with us?
Yes. So we are in discovery now in the litigation, and we'll get to that. But we do have a video that's been that we've been able to make public, a body camera video of the stop of one of our plaintiffs, Brian Gavidia. He was featured in some LA Times reporting at the time, and you all may have seen that. And there's another vantage point of this video that was shown, but now we have the body camera footage, and so you can see the tactics being used, in this case, by Border Patrol. That's another citizen who's being pinned to the ground, and he calls out that he's recording.
Hey, grab this guy, or go with them. Hey, bro, relax. Over here, brother. I'm American, bro. What hospital were you born at? Bro, don't get me like that, though. I'm not going to steal. You're a citizen or no? Okay. What hospital were you born at? I know fucking hospital. Let me show you my shit. Go ahead, big trip. Okay, hey, let go of my hand, bro. I'm American, dog. Record this shit, por favor. Record.
Saying to let go of his
Bro, I
hand.
don't know what hospital. I was born and raised in that shit. I don't know. I can show you my shit. Let me show you. What documents do you have? I can show you my fucking ID, dog. Let me show you. I'm not trying to resist anything. Look how you got my hand. You're twisting that shit, but I'm American, bro. What hospital were you born in? I don't know, dog. I can show you my ID. What state were you born? I can born here, United States, East LA, bro. I can fucking show you. I got my real ID, way, no mames. Look at my shit, fool. Cause I look fucking Mexican, way. How's your question? No mames, way. Pinche vatos putos, way. I'm fucking American, way. No mames, way. Just stand back. It fucking hurts you like that, bro? Yeah, look. No mames, way. Relax, fool. Got my shit. No mames, way. We're doing our job. Hey, I'm American, dog. You can't be doing this shit to me.
So we'll talk in a second about what the legal challenge is, but what are you seeing here that then becomes the subject of some of the challenges in the lawsuit?
I'm seeing so many things. I'm seeing heavily armed, masked agents swarming on someone for absolutely no reason other than what he looks like. I'm seeing violent tactics, shoving him up against the fence. He's protesting to let him show them his ID. And they're just repeatedly asking what hospital he was born in, as if not being able to remember, or if you ever knew which hospital you were born in, then you're not meant to be here. You also saw the way that they treated Javier, who was, pinned to the ground by multiple agents over there, also a citizen. And of course, I mentioned that they're citizens because it does tend to add this kind of chilling effect for people. But of course, the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution applies to everyone. And so, regardless of citizenship, these tactics are unconstitutional, and they also violate various statutes and regulations.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what the legal challenges are?
Sure. So, the main heart of the legal challenge here is under the Fourth Amendment. So you may have heard of something called a Terry stop or stop and frisk. It's really those issues that are at play here. So if you're just walking down the street or doing your job in a public place, the police, or in this case, immigration enforcement agents, can't just stop you, detain you, deprive you of your liberty for no reason. They need to have a level of suspicion called reasonable suspicion. So it's not probable cause, which is what's needed for an arrest, but it's some articulable reason about you specifically that makes them think you're either engaged in a crime and criminal activity, that's for a Terry stop, or in this case, some reason to think that you're unlawfully present in the United States. And that reasonable suspicion needs to be individualized. It can't just be because you belong to some racial or ethnic group or have some characteristic that describes hundreds or thousands of people, particularly in Southern California, based on our demographic makeup. So we have a challenge to the fact that they basically have thrown out the reasonable suspicion analysis and just they're going after whoever they want based on these sort of broad demographic profiles. And then we have some other, we have an equal protection clause theory, so a different part of the Constitution, challenging the way in which these tactics are based on race. And we've got some statutory and regulatory challenges to the use of masks, which is not allowed in this context, and to arresting people without a warrant and without determining on an individual basis, again, that that person poses a flight risk such that you couldn't get a warrant and serve them with the warrant for their arrest. Those are the legal challenges. And then, sorry, one more thing. Then we also have the other part of the case that I'm not directly litigating. My co-counsel is based on the conditions of confinement downtown at the federal building, which are abysmal, and the denial of reasonable access to attorneys while you're being held there, which is part of this sort of mass deportation effort, kind of forcing people to take what's called voluntary departure, which is basically giving up your right to process.
So what was the first significant action taken in the case?
So we filed for a TRO, a temporary restraining order, in federal district court on the Fourth Amendment claim that I mentioned about the stopping of people. So this sort of the beginning of the pipeline of getting people into this dragnet. And the district court granted the TRO based on the declarations that we submitted, based on a lot of public reporting that people worked really hard on too, a lot of great investigative reporting, videos that people have shared online. So makes a difference with building a record on a TRO, and we went in, and on the strength of that record, she said that what we were saying was happening, and that we were entitled to an injunction prohibiting the government from engaging in this policy and practice of foregoing a reasonable suspicion determination.
And then was it taken to a higher court?
Yes. So the government did a fast track appeal up to the Ninth Circuit, the Court of Appeals, challenging, saying that our plaintiffs didn't have standing because even if something bad happened to them in the past, it might not again. And that's an argument you'll hear a lot. And challenging the way that the order was written, that it was a bit too specific. The order said that, officers couldn't make stops based solely on certain demographic criteria like race, like your job, and where you're standing. And they said it was, impeding too much on officer discretion, and they get to consider the totality of the circumstances. The Ninth Circuit affirmed our injunction and wrote a great opinion analyzing all of those arguments and rejecting them. And then your next question is what happened next, right? So,
well, I think we can all guess where it went next.
Yeah, so unfortunately it went up to the Supreme Court, and you've probably heard a lot and read a lot about the shadow docket. This was heard on the shadow docket, so there was very quick, expedited briefing, and the Supreme Court stayed the injunction, so effectively overturned it in an unreasoned opinion. So they just say the order is stayed. You know that a majority of the justices voted to overturn the order. We don't know why. There were two separate writings. So there was a dissent written by Justice Sotomayor, joined by Justice Kagan and Justice Jackson. And the dissenters would have left the order in place. And there was a separate writing as well from Justice Kavanaugh. He filed what's called a concurrence, which is like where you say, me too, but for this reason. And he wrote only for himself. And he said some things that I think were maybe based on a factual misunderstanding, like that these stops were sort of routine and that if you are lawfully present, you can kind of quickly dispel the officer's suspicion and get them to go away. And I think what we saw in the video just now, the video we got in Discovery, is that that's not true. These are highly coercive, violent, intimidating stops. Another one of our plaintiffs was taken away from his workplace and held there while they investigated his citizenship before being brought back. So these are extremely intrusive. And that's what the dissenters pointed out, is that these are highly intrusive tactics, and they're not being done with the requisite level of suspicion. Justice Kavanaugh also got a lot of press for commenting on the use of race in that opinion, sort of suggesting that reliance on race is okay under the Fourth Amendment. And, that was interesting because he's also since then commented in another case on the shadow docket, I believe, that maybe that would be a problem under the Equal Protection Clause. So we'll have to see if we are able to convince him that reliance on race is not constitutional.
Okay, so John, if we can switch to Grace now, I have a question for her. So Grace, hopefully you can hear us down here.
Loud and clear. Can you folks hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very loudly and clearly here too. So I understand that various Southern California local governments joined in the suit on the same side as the individuals and organizations that Sarah's representing. When did that occur?
Sure. So just a few days after the plaintiffs filed their initial complaint in the district court, 9 local governments, including the city of LA and Los Angeles County and Santa Monica, all filed a motion with the court to intervene. And for those of you among us who are not lawyers, a motion to intervene is basically just a request to the court to fully participate in the lawsuit as a party. So about a month after we filed our request, the court granted it, and we are now parties to the case, all 9 of those cities. So we're in the case and we're fighting alongside the plaintiffs. And in fact, shortly after the court granted our request, we ended up adding more than a dozen additional cities to our team. So now we have a total of 22 local governments that are standing arm in arm with the plaintiffs, challenging the government's unlawful raids. And that includes municipalities from LA County, from Orange County, from Ventura County, and from Santa Barbara County, all of which are in the district where these actions are being challenged. So we have a really broad coalition of folks who are standing up to this right now.
And what role are Santa Monica and these other local governments playing in the litigation?
Sure. So the cities, including Santa Monica, have played a really crucial role in this litigation. And that's played out in a number of ways. So first of all, Sarah was talking about the TRO proceedings. And we were involved in those in the district court as well, even before the court actually formally granted our request to participate in the case. The court let us participate in the TRO hearing. And so we were able to present evidence about how the raids were affecting the cities, including Santa Monica. Then once we got permission to fully participate in the case and the government appealed that TRO order, as Sarah was explaining, we were able to submit briefs both at the Ninth Circuit and at the Supreme Court, really laying out just exactly how harmful these raids were on the city. So we submitted tons of evidence and briefing about how the raids were undermining local law enforcement efforts because people didn't trust law enforcement anymore. They were seeing folks get pulled off the street by people in uniform. We talked about how it was costing tens of millions of dollars in local tax revenues to respond to these raids. And we talked about some of the effects on folks who had been arrested near courthouses and sort of how that affected local courthouses' ability to go about their business, right? And ensure that if you have a case, you can appear as a witness and you don't have to be afraid of being arrested at the courthouse door. We submitted similar evidence, but actually even more voluminous when it came to the preliminary injunction stage before the district court. And I do have to say that was really thanks to the concerted efforts of all the various cities, including Santa Monica. Folks went around and talked to residents and gathered evidence and put it into a form that was, I think, the most compelling way to present it to the court. And it's something that the lawyers couldn't have done on their own. The cities were absolutely crucial for that effort. And then the last thing, and this is also really critical, the plaintiffs have asserted a number of legal claims challenging the rates here. And we've joined in pretty much all of those. But the cities also have asserted some legal claims that are specific to local governments that individual plaintiffs can't bring. And that has a couple of flavors. One of them is that the government is violating the 10th Amendment because their policy of arresting people in and around state courthouses essentially commandeers California's judicial system, and it interferes with the state's core sovereign functions. Again, as I said earlier, folks are really afraid to go to court because of these raids that have been happening. So you end up having situations where witnesses won't appear and prosecutors can't do their jobs. So we've brought a claim specific to the cities challenging that. We've also brought a claim under a statute that's called the Administrative Procedure Act. And that's another angle of attack for the government's courthouse arrests. And basically we say, the government has never explained how what they're doing complies with the law here, and has never considered all the harm that it's wreaking on the states and the cities where it's carrying out these actions. Also happy to say that the government asked the court to dismiss all of our claims. We fought that. And a couple months ago, the court issued an order denying the government's motion. So we are in it. Our claims have not been dismissed. And I really think the bottom line here is that the cities, very much including Santa Monica, bring something to this case that individual plaintiffs can't. And that's the institutional perspectives of local government. So because all of the cities have shown up and participated and collected all this evidence, we're able to show the court just exactly how harmful these raids are and how they're undermining public safety and draining local budgets. And again, that's thanks to the efforts of folks like you guys and your counterparts in local government. So we're really grateful to be working arm in arm with all of you on this.
Great, thank you. So I guess last question, where do things stand now in the litigation?
So we're past that initial motion to dismiss stage, as Grace mentioned, and we are in discovery. So we've started getting a lot of information from the federal government. We're, hoping that someday that'll be, available to people on the public docket, but we're getting body camera footage, we're getting documentation of arrests that they put together, such as it is, and all sorts of information that will help us prove our case, that these actions are happening and that they are illegal. And then, there will be some more of this kind of emergency briefing. So going back to try to get some interim relief for the community while we wait to take the case to trial. And the trial will be next summer.
Great. Well, thank you, Sarah and Grace, both for your time, but more importantly, for all the work that you and all of your colleagues at your law firm and all the co-counsel are putting in trying to fight to maintain America as a free society. I recommend for anybody who might be interested taking a look at the dissent by the three justices appointed by Democratic presidents. They make a crucial point that you can't be using these general characteristics that would mean a whole host of people who are perfectly lawful, law-abiding people are being stopped in the ways you saw there. And hopefully as Democrats, we will do everything in our power to fight against that, which it's great that it's happening in court, but we all have to be doing everything we can in this election to try and change Congress so that there's somebody controlling the money and trying to prevent these things, and then ultimately changing the presidency. And as I always say, I'm still wearing my pin with Renee Good and Alex Preddy. They gave their lives fighting this. The rest of us have to be very brave too. We don't think of our lives, but we do have to give our time, our money, and our effort. So thank you both.
Okay. So, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Sarah and Grace, for joining us. And we're now going to turn to a conversation about something that many voters across Los Angeles County and increasingly here in Santa Monica as well have been noticing in their mailboxes and on their phones. The explosion of independent expenditures, dark money campaigns, and political messaging from organizations that most people have never heard of. So our mailer came out last week, and it has an FPPC ID number at the bottom. So people can find out more about our organization, our website's here, our address. Actually, my name is listed. So if anyone has an issue with our endorsements or the process, they can reach out. This mailer came in today to a member of our club. Anonymous response. It's a letter about why Mayor Terosas is ruining our city, and it lists all the reasons, and then it says, "Sincerely, your neighbor." The mailer is from the concerned citizens of Santa Monica. So, former Los Angeles City Council member Mike Bonin recently did a deep dive into this ecosystem, who funds it, how it operates, how the same consultants and entities keep appearing across races, and how these campaigns can dramatically shape local politics while remaining mostly invisible to the public. Mike now serves as executive director of the Pat Brown Institute at Cal State LA, and I'll just say he's one of the sharpest observers of Southern California politics that I know. He spent years inside government, in city council, campaigns, media. I met one of the first people I met in Santa Monica working on Tori Osborne's campaign. He has a unique perspective on how all this actually works behind the scenes. And frankly, part of the reason why we wanted to have this conversation is because many of these dynamics that he describes in Los Angeles are beginning to feel very familiar here in Santa Monica. So please welcome back to the club longtime friend Mike Bonin.
Thanks, man. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Need all this?
Yeah. So here, you can grab a seat.
Oh, good. Oh, cool.
Okay, cool. So, for those who
and wait, David Levitas would be pissed at me if I did not get out of the bat right away. Also, co-host of LA Podcast, which LA Forward promotes, and What's Next Los Angeles, the other podcast.
I was going to plug it at the end, but yeah, check out Mike's podcasts. So, Mike, for people who haven't read your reporting yet, what did you discover when you were looking at these in your investigation that made you realize, wait a second, there's actually a machine involved here?
Well, I think the first thing I should say is that I don't know the whole story. We don't know the whole story. I wrote this Substack piece and I did not tell the whole story. I only told the beginning of a story because we just don't know what it is yet. It starts like this. In a lot of neighborhoods in Los Angeles and in Santa Monica, people are seeing something that in their mailboxes or on billboards that looks maybe distasteful but perfectly normal for an election. Hit pieces, mailers, things with salacious headlines saying, this person is the devil, this person is evil, and things in their mailbox saying, hey, this is a message from your neighbors. That's typical enough. What's different here is that these things are not from neighbors in many cases. We are all used to really two different types of campaign mailers. We're used to stuff from a campaign itself, which says paid for by Ellis Raskin for Santa Monica City Council. Or we are used to seeing something that says Tracy Park is the devil, which is actually true, brought to you by Working Families for Los Angeles, lead sponsor, Unite Here Local 11, right? The first is a campaign expenditure. The second is an independent expenditure done by something like a political action committee. What we're seeing now in Los Angeles is something that was seen in San Francisco, used very effectively against former DA Chesa Boudin, who got recalled, is mailers that say that they are from neighbors, but they are not subject, for a number of different reasons, they are not subject to campaign disclosures. So we don't know who's donating money to them, and we don't know what they're spending their money on. Right, so in Council District 1, which is in Los Angeles, Eunices Hernandez, where this is happening most intently, we are seeing all these mailers saying that she's responsible for homelessness, that she's anti-police, that she's responsible for a rise in crime, that she's a failure, all these different things. And what we don't know, though, is what else they might be spending money on, right? There's nothing that requires them to say they're spending $500,000 on canvases. There's nothing that requires them to say they're spending money on opposition research or on polling. There's nothing to say that they're not paying for all sorts of community meetings. We've indications that they're doing a little bit of some of this, but there's nothing that requires this information to be disclosed. And there's nothing that requires them to say who's paying for it. So when you get the anti-Tracy Park mailer paid for by Working Families, lead sponsor Unite Here Local 11, you know that Local 11 is one of the main sponsors. And you can go to a website and you can find out who else donates to that political action committee. In this case, we have no idea if these are Angelenos who are donating to it. We have no idea if it is some corporate titan in San Francisco. We have no idea if it's a tech company. We have no idea if it's Jeff Bezos. Frankly, we have no idea if it's someone who's from another country. There's nothing that's requiring, and it's because they have found a legal mechanism to sort of get around campaign disclosure. If they, because they're a type of nonprofit that can do education, as long as they don't say vote for, vote against, support, or oppose, and a few other key magic words, it's not a campaign expense. So as a voter, you're looking at this, and this is very clearly a campaign mailer, but they have found effectively loopholes by not using certain words to avoid campaign disclosure requirements. Now, what we have learned is that they are all linked. There's sort of a central link to it. There's a law firm in San Rafael. I thought it was San Rafael, but listeners to LA Podcast have corrected us. San Rafael, called Nielsen Merksema. And they're a big Republican firm. They do work on redistricting. They did work on the ballot measure to make sure that gig workers couldn't unionize. They've worked for a lot of Republican candidates. They are the common denominator for all of these different efforts. There's a statewide group called Govern for California, and they are their lawyer. Govern for California gets a lot of money, and Govern for California then distributes the money to smaller organizations. One of them is Vibrant California or Vibrant Los Angeles. Can't remember which one it is. And that also has as its lawyer this law firm, Nielsen Merksema. And then they give their money to an organization that's doing these mailers called Neighbors First. Their lawyer is Nielsen Merksema. There's a billboard promoting Tracy Park just outside of the 11th District. This one is a legally required disclosure. Billboard companies did it legally. Their law firm, though, the address for their disclosure is Nielsen Merksema. Nielsen Merksema has done dozens of these. Govern for California has, I think, 18 different subsidiaries. And at one point, there was a message out there saying Govern for California has been asked to donate some of its money to the Neighbors First effort in Los Angeles. Now, there's little pieces of information that we have managed to gather from different records or different revelations or different reporting, is that Govern for California has gotten money in the past from Mark Merrill, who's the founder of Riot Games. They've gotten money in the past from Kilroy Realty, which is based here on the west side, also a big presence in Northern California. Very, very conservative political actor. John Kilroy is very, very right-wing, anti-renter, anti-progressive taxation, a whole bunch of stuff. And then some real sort of rich robber baron types up in San Francisco who've really been behind this. Here locally, a couple of the names that have been linked to it is one of the few disclosures they have to make is Neighbors First had to disclose who their board is or who their officer is. And like their local president or CEO was a person by the name of Wilson Gee. And given that they were operating in Council District 1, a number of us, including me, made the assumption that Wilson Gee was the Wilson Gee who is one of the founding families, so-called, of Chinatown, who has been a spokesperson not a spokesperson, but an advocate for the Dodgers gondola project, which Councilmember Hernandez and a lot of neighborhood groups have opposed. So after I reported this, other organizations started doing some reporting on this. Paul Thornton, who used to be the LA Times opinion page director, who now writes for Golden State Report, one of the new news organizations around, very good, just check it out, did a follow-up report, and he called and asked Wilson Gee, is this you? And he said no. He called the law firm and asked for Wilson Gee. And they said, oh, well, he's not here right now, we'll get back to you. An hour later, literally an hour later, according to Paul Thornton, they filed different paperwork changing the name of the person who was the head of the organization locally. It's someone who used to work for Gil Cedillo, who Ulises Hernandez defeated. The other thing that came up, I wrote this piece knowing I wasn't going to get to the bottom of this, but I was hoping it would inspire other journalists to do so. Dave Zahniser from the LA Times also did a follow-up story. He wasn't able to dig up much more, but he did dig up the fact that one of the people who is behind Vibrant California, Vibrant Los Angeles, is Jennifer Rivera, who is most recently worked for Frank McCourt at the Dodgers and was very involved in the gondola project. So we have established what Hernandez and her team suspected is that the people behind the gondola are behind a lot of the attacks on her. But again, the big takeaway on this is we have no idea who is funding this stuff, how much they have raised, and what they're doing with their money. This was the same tactic that they used in large part against the DA in San Francisco that led to his recall. And some of them, this isn't a completely, A to B dynamic, but some of them have also been involved in defeating some of the progressive school board members up there, in changing the composition of the majority of the once progressive majority of the city council up there, or the board of supervisors up there. And there's basically at the moment not a regulatory way around this. So what's scary is that this is probably our future. You're probably seeing it in the mailer that John just talked about. And once the political and the ethical norm of doing things as a political action committee and disclosing and being transparent, once that goes away, then you're left with this dark money network where you have no idea what the hell is going on. And the point I want to make is that it's more dangerous than just what happens during the election. And I'll use an example of something that I experienced and how this could play out that way. As most of you know, I was subject to a couple efforts at political recalls, people trying to take me out of office. Neither one qualified for the ballot. But the way things work in Los Angeles is you can only raise money for political purposes for your campaign 18 months before the city council election. It's not like Congress where you're constantly raising money and you're constantly spending money. You're in office for 4 years, but you can only do campaigning for 18 months of that. So what can happen under a dark money system is you can have a dark money network that is spending an unlimited amount of money in ways that you don't know about, attacking you, and you do not have a legal political mechanism to counteract it or to defend yourself. So until, for instance, until the folks who were promoting a recall against me formed an actual committee and did the paperwork, they could talk shit about me all day long, and I couldn't raise a dime to combat it. Once they formed the committee, then I could form my own committee. But we're in this sort of wild, wild west, this no man's land now, where all of this can happen without disclosure, without formal committees. And it means, if you remember, when George Gascon took office, they started a recall on Gascon like the day he took office. That's the kind of thing that can get very aggressively funded under this dark money system.
Well, thanks so much for sharing the core of your research. I mean, is there any response? What is the disclosure law that would resolve this?
So part of this is a matter of state law, and part of this, from what I gather, is federal, because part of this is about how IRS rules apply for the difference between 501c3s and 501c4s. Right? 501c4s can do educational stuff. And so by saying they're doing just educational stuff about issues, doing a comparative piece between candidates, they can say this is just educational, telling you how they voted on this, how they voted on that. As long as they're not saying vote for or vote against, that's legit. So you'd need some change in federal law about what is allowed to be done or what is allowed to be disclosed. There may be additional things that local or state government can do as additional requirements. Los Angeles has some tougher ethics rules than the state, for instance, and so anything the city tries to do would almost certainly be challenged legally and would be a protracted legal fight. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any attempt in the city of LA anyway to address this or try to see if there's a way to mandate more disclosure. And so there won't be anything that goes into place prior to the November election, unfortunately.
So when we think of the voters who are going to be looking at lots of political mail-in ads over the course of the next few months, we know there's going to be lots of negative ads. We've seen that before, like you said. That's nothing new. What do we want to tell people to leave them with in terms of when they're looking at this stuff, this is the new, this is what you really need to be wary of, that's beyond what we've seen in the past?
It's hard. What I would say about mail that you get and stuff is if you can't identify who it's from, right? If there's not like a website that you can go to and check and find out who's funding it and what they're spending money on, you shouldn't believe a word of it, right? You should consider it all absolutely suspect. The problem is, like, a lot of this can be happening, like they could be doing tons of social media ads. And, if you're looking at an ad on Instagram, it's gone before you have a chance to look at the fine print to see if there's a disclosure. So it's really very challenging. KNX was talking to me today about some allegation Spencer Pratt is making and some counter allegation that Karen Bass is making. And my advice to voters is don't pay attention to a fucking thing that happens in a campaign in the last week. Don't pay, none of it. It should matter at all because it's all unverified nonsense. Just do your own research.
Well said. Okay, we have time for a couple of questions, I guess. Do you want to?
Sure.
Okay, we'll take, we'll go with Councilmember Negrete.
My name is Lana Negrete. I'm on the City Council in Santa Monica. I feel like I also have to say I'm a good friend of Tracy Park.
I know.
So I really not impressed with your calling her the devil, and I think it's inappropriate and unbecoming. But besides
that's okay. She's continued to spend out mailers against me long after I left office.
I just wanted to say that it's probably better not to do that. And to that point, I guess my question is, how do we discern just because something is is filed correctly doesn't mean what was said on a flyer is necessarily truthful. And then opposite of that, I don't know about this letter situation, who's sending that out. I don't even think it's worth giving air to that letter. But the point is also that citizens can say things, whether they're true or not, and they don't have the ability to raise funds and pay for ads. So really my point is, you're sort of saying that if it has the legal writing at the bottom, then whatever it says is verifiable, and I think that's not always the case. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I would agree. I'm not saying that it's true, but what I am saying is that it's more verifiable because you can find out who's paying for it and what they're spending their money on, right? You can measure the claims against the source, whereas if it's undisclosed, you have no idea how to evaluate anything, right?
Okay, let's take one more question from Isabel, and then we'll wrap up.
Hi, I'm Isabel Story. I'm the Vice President Legislation of the club. So as such, I'm interested in any legislation that could help with this. Do you know of any state legislators that are working on anything? And I know you did somewhat generally touch on this, but can you be any more specific on state legislation that could help? Because later this year, we'll be talking to our legislators to propose ideas for new legislation, and I'd be interested in pursuing this as far as something, that would be worthy of a new bill.
I don't. What I would suggest to figure out what the right legislative remedy would be is there are a number of election and ethical watchdogs. The person who actually tipped me off to this, Rob Kwan, is with Unrig LA. He's very frequent commenter on X and other social media. He's much more well-versed in the details of what the rules are and what the loopholes are, as well as folks from Common Cause and other organizations like that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I think we're going to wrap up. I know you've got an out time.
John,
do you want to?
we do have a hand up on Zoom. If we could let Brooke ask a question or make a comment.
Is that the question?
And also, I guess my question is, if we're all for disclosure, would you support laws, amendments to FPPC rules that actually require the campaigns to be truthful? Because what we're actually experiencing here, I feel like, is a flood of developer money, and we can't identify the developers because they're not required to identify their ownership. And that is actually what's flooding our elections, and we as individuals can't fight out against that.
Yeah, I would totally be in favor of that. I think that would be tough to implement and enforce because we have a very hard time in our society agreeing on what truth is. So there are things that could be verifiable, right? This person voted this way or not. But if somebody is saying, this person is in the pocket of developers, right? That's something that is more of a judgment call and isn't a black and white.
Okay.
John, can we let Brooke ask her question or make her comment, please?
Okay. Thanks.
I'm just telling you how to play out legally. Right. That's all.
Okay. I appreciate. Yeah. Kay can handle it in just a second. I'm going to say goodbye to Mike.
You have to protect me from getting the.
Okay.
We're going to point to the code of conduct, and we don't allow people to overtake the meeting like that.
I'll give you the envelope in just a moment. I'm in the middle of conducting a meeting.
The chair's holding the meeting, so
okay.
We're going to turn to
always
the
a pleasure to have
you here, man.
Can we please give Mike Bonin a round of applause for being here? Okay. Mike, one of the great voices in LA politics today, and as promised, here's the plug. You can listen to his political takes every week on the LA podcast and his own What's Next Los Angeles podcast. And check out the article that we were talking about today, The Machine Behind the Mailers. His Substack is mikebonin.substack.com. Thank you again, Mike Bonin. Okay. So now we'll move into our legislative committee item for the evening regarding AB 1740. As many of you know, this bill has gone through extensive review and discussion within the club over the past few weeks. The legislative committee met on May 8th and voted to recommend an opposed position. The executive board then met on May 13th and voted to recommend no position. However, since both of those meetings, The bill itself has changed substantially, including the removal of several provisions that generated a lot of the earlier discussion and concern. So tonight's conversation is really about understanding where the legislation stands now and determining whether the club wishes to take any formal position on the bill in its current form. I also want to acknowledge at the outset that members of good faith have come to different conclusions on this issue. I know many people here deeply care a lot about coastal protection and about housing and the democratic process and economic vitality and Santa Monica more broadly. So my hope is we can approach the discussion thoughtfully and respectfully and hear the updated information before we deliberate. To help ground the discussion in the current version of the legislation, we've invited representatives from both Assemblymember Burr's office and from the City of Santa Monica to speak with us tonight and answer questions from members. First, though, I'm pleased to welcome our Legislative Vice President, Isabel Story, to provide some context about the committee and the history regarding the bill.
All right. Thank you, John. However, you said just about everything I was going to say. So I'm not going to repeat what John said as far as the process that the bill has gone through so far, the legislative committee, the board. Both of those votes happened, however, before the substantial revisions that happened on May 18th and May 22, which was just last Friday. I would say that more than half of what was in the bill before was taken out and has completely new content. So the only thing I really want to say is that I think tonight we should listen to the speakers to hear what the bill is tonight. And I've spent quite some time in the last few days reading it and understanding and seeing what it is now. That we listen with an open mind to what the bill is now, and any discussion or vote that we take should be based on what the bill is now, not what it was a week or a month ago. And I know it's hard sometimes when you form opinions and you just want to stick with those opinions, but I myself have revised my opinions. And so anyway, I think whatever we do tonight should be based on what the bill is. And then also, there has been, since those votes, a memo of understanding between the city and the Coastal Commission, which Ellis is going to tell us about later, which is a very encouraging development. And the main thing that I can say about the revisions is I've been very pleased to see the city, the author of the bill, our Assemblymember Burr, and the Coastal Commission involved in productive discussions to move forward and come to some kind of plan. And I enjoyed seeing how they've been working collaboratively to come to agreement on some of these issues, and I think a lot of progress has been made. So to tell us where the bill stands now, we have Robbie Steinberg from Assemblymember Burr's office. Thank you, Robbie.
Also, he has a new title, Senior Field Representative for Assemblymember Burr.
With great suffering comes small promotion. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I think that's not all one of those slides. Sure. So you can go over there.
Give me one second here. Will they appear over there?
Yeah, just a second.
Okay, so while John is getting those ready, I can get started. My name is Robbie Steinberg. Should just start with a disclosure that I'm not the author of the bill, as you all probably know. But I do work for Assemblymember Burr, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the bill, try and give an overview that at least I hope will help folks understand where we are and where we've been. So I thought I'd start by noting that, over the last really last few weeks, I've had a lot of conversations with different folks in Santa Monica from really all different sides of our political spectrum about what they didn't like or did like about this bill so we could better understand how to improve the bill going forward. I shared that feedback with the Assembly member, and the result, at least in part, has been the amendments that are in that packet there. So I don't know about folks on Zoom, but for folks here in person, I put together a little one-pager, the first page that describes the bill, and then the text of the bill itself, because there's been a lot of back and forth about what does this really mean. If you want to read it yourself, it's there. And then a copy of the MOU between the Coastal Commission and the city is also in there. So those second and third documents are not created by me. Okay, so the original version of 1740 included a whole series of exemptions from the Coastal Act for qualifying cities. That bill passed the Assembly Natural Resource Committee, where it was amended to only apply to Santa Monica, which is sort of like a pilot program. And then the bill passed the Assembly Housing Committee. As I think most of you know, and for some here could attest to, the Commission did not support that version of 1740 and felt quite strongly about it. And so as 1740 moved through those committees, we saw at least one positive side effect. The Commission kind of became quite interested in working with the City of Santa Monica to see how they could address the problems the city was facing without that version of 1740. So, as some of you know, one of the challenges facing the city is that we don't have an LCP. Depending on who you ask, you'll hear very different answers for whose fault that is. I'm sure both sides have legitimate points. But one significant issue in the city, at least in our coastal area, like downtown Santa Monica, did Isabel show a map of the? No, oh, you meant to, okay. They have the map available. Yeah, so 4th Street down to the ocean is all in the coastal zone. So I just mentioned that as an example of where, of course, the LCP would be most helpful.
Okay.
Okay, we can.
Okay. Yeah.
I think for the folks who came here specifically for 1740, I trust they know where the coastal zone is. Okay, so while folks definitely might know what the coastal zone is, I did want to briefly talk about what an LCP is for those who don't know. Just to give a brief overview, it's a plan each coastal city makes or can make to govern development, land use, and public access within its section of the coastal zone. The Commission retains direct permitting authority, requiring a CDP for most changes, even minor ones like renovations or outdoor dining, if a city doesn't have an LCP, such as Santa Monica. And so Santa Monica has lacked a certified LCP for decades, giving the Commission wide authority over routine local decisions. And so as I mentioned before, as 1740 moved forward, the Commission expressed interest in working with the city to resolve that issue and work quickly to create an LCP, which is a very exciting prospect, and one that Councilmember Raskin can go into more detail on. The Commission began working with the city a few weeks ago on a framework to create an LCP that would address key issues in the city while maintaining the Commission's coastal authority and protections. That would be an amazing outcome were it to happen. Excuse me. So the Assembly member did view that as a very positive outcome, and the only question became, how do we make sure that that actually happens? And that became the new question guiding 1740, is how do we make sure that this actually happens before he amends the bill? And that brings us to this past Friday. The city and the Commission, in a very exciting step forward, finalized an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, that will guide the LCP process. And that is where we are now. That is a relatively historic agreement. We don't see a lot of them that negotiated between the city and the Commission. To outline the process, the Council voted 7-0 on Tuesday to approve it. And that MOU was agreed to on Friday. And so also on Friday, the Assembly member submitted a pretty dramatically amended, to the extent that I would say it was really a redesigned entirely, version of 1740. So with the MOU in place, 1740 is able to change direction in a way that I think is, at least from conversations I've had so far, very positive for some of the local conversations I've had. So now, instead of exempting activities from the Commission's oversight, we can focus on ensuring that the MOU actually turns into an LCP. We have seen LCP progress stall before, as Santa Monica would know from not having one for so long, and we want to make sure that the city and the Commission get across the finish line. And so with that in mind, the Assembly member created a timeline with incentives to make sure it happens. So, as you see on that slide, January 1st, 2027, that's when the bill would pass. Santa Monica will receive interim exemptions for minor commercial renovations, no expansions beyond 10% for commercial buildings, visitor serving only. So that means some of the most common complaints you hear about, say, a retail establishment turning into a restaurant and that requiring a CDP or a CDP waiver or exemption, right? Those will be dealt with. But interior and exterior renovations are included, but nothing beyond 10%. So that does not include new development. It, most importantly to many folks, does not include any new housing development. So this is minor but important relief for the city while the city and the Commission work together to get the LCP done, which will keep those improvements in place going forward. That brings us to the first deadline, January 1, 2029. The city must submit a complete LCP to the Coastal Commission. From there, 6 months later, the Commission has 6 months to act, not to approve, to act, from receiving the LCP, unless the city requests an extension. And that brings us to the last date on there, July 1st, 2029, so 2.5 years after the passage of the bill. The housing exemption is triggered only if the LCP is not certified by that date. So we'll get into that. I'll give more detail on that, but to start, that is a pretty carefully designed provision. Yes, it incentivizes the Commission to get the LCP done because the Commission doesn't want that exemption to take place, but it isn't sweeping. It's only between Wilshire and Pico. It's not the entirety of the coastal zone. And if you live in Santa Monica, you know that that is the densest part of the city that's already zoned with the maximum density of anywhere in Santa Monica. So, and most importantly, that exemption only applies until an LCP is certified. So as soon as the LCP is certified, that exemption goes away. This is an incentive to get the Commission and the city to both get the LCP done. And I can talk more about that in a second. I'm just going to keep going, but I know people will have questions about this particular part. Okay, so I thought I would talk briefly about the interim exemptions in a bit more depth, and then the housing exemption in a bit more depth as well, just in case anyone thinks I'm not going to go back to housing. So the interim exemptions until the LCP is certified. Those are effective January 1, 2027, when the bill is enacted, and they expire automatically when the LCP is certified, because the LCP should include these kind of basic changes of use, et cetera. So minor commercial renovations, interior, exterior work on buildings less than 10,000 square feet, so not gigantic buildings. Expansions can only be up to 10%, so when you're doing interior, exterior renovations, you cannot expand the building beyond 10%, or else, of course, you'd need a CDP, so that process still remains. Changes of use can only be to visitor-serving commercial applications, so that's like retail, restaurants, et cetera, not building, not like an office space or obviously industrial or anything like that. It has to be outside the appeal jurisdiction, which is up to the first public road or 300 feet, so it's not on the beach, and it has to be at least 100 feet from wetlands and sensitive habitat, which are sort of standard coastal protections as well. The other two areas of exemptions are pretty straightforward. And when we were working on this, they were actually suggested to us by the Commission, which were ADA compliance and EV charging. Okay, so I'll get a sip of water before I do the next one. But actually. Okay, so I know this is like the hot button topic. I want to make sure everyone sees exactly what we have on here. The housing exemption is conditional. It's only if the LCP is not certified. It's triggered on July 1st, 2029. That's based on the timeline established between the Commission and the city. It sunsets July 1st, 2031, so 2 years after July 1, 2029 to July 1, 2031. And it applies only between Wilshire Boulevard and Pico, already zoned for the maximum density. And for those who are not familiar with the coastal zone, that's 4th Street down to Ocean between Wilshire and Pico. That excludes the appeal jurisdiction, just like with the other exemption I mentioned, and excludes areas within 100 feet of wetlands or sensitive habitat. Now, you might be wondering, and at least I've been asked in talking about this, why the Assembly member thinks that this is necessary. Both parties, meaning the Commission and the city, have stated they think they can have an LCP done and certified by the end of 2027. So the Assembly member just wants to make sure that both sides are incentivized to keep working toward that goal. With the exemptions of 1740 off the table, the city will certainly be motivated to have an LCP. It'll make, if you talk to anyone who works with the city or works in the city, it will make things significantly easier. Whether we're talking about changes of use, temporary events, all sorts of things that will make life in Santa Monica, or at least within the coastal zone, a little bit better for residents, businesses, and city staff who spend a lot of time dealing with this. In general, as I think we've heard in this debate about 1740 all along, LCPs are great for cities, so there are a lot of reasons to want an LCP. Now, that brings us to the other side of the incentive, right? Since 1740 was introduced, the Commission has seemed particularly motivated as well to work with the city and get this done. And that raises a question. I think the Commission has worked really, really efficiently and productively with the city and with our office, and I think the Assembly member would be the first to say that he really appreciates the work that's happened recently. And I think the concern is just, if 1740 goes away, we have a year and a half, we have 2 years, is there a way to incentivize the Commission as well to get this done? And that's where the housing provision enters the picture, right, as an additional incentive, because it's something the Commission generally does not want. Not that the Commission is against housing, but an exemption to the Commission's authority in the coastal zone. The Assembly member has said explicitly he does not think the provision will ever take effect because the LCP should be done well before July 1, 2029. But one of the reasons it will get done is that both sides are incentivized. And that does include the city. It's not just the Commission. The city needs to be incentivized as well. And before moving past that, I thought I'd share one theory that I've heard, and I'm sure other folks have theories as well, that the city will blow up the LCP negotiations so that they can get the housing exemption. And I gave this some thought, and here, this is just me personally why I don't think that makes sense, but very open to other thoughts. I think about it and I think, do we think that the city would give up all the benefits that an LCP offers? The ability to permit temporary events, to do roadway improvements, sidewalk improvements, business community improvements, public safety improvements, like people have talked about closing parts of the beach at night, and smaller things like preferential parking changes. Would the city and our elected officials give all that up to have a 2-year exemption in the densest part of the city for housing? Really? Okay. Well, maybe. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't think so, but well, the original bill applied to the whole coastal zone, but anyway, I'll just keep going. Anyway, we can come back to the housing and other exemptions depending on when we're doing, how the question part works. But one final provision to just mention, because you'll see it in the bill document. Assemblymember Zbur told the Commission he wanted to work with the Commission to help streamline bike paths and transit, as was in the original bill. And this is a good example of how productive the Commission has been and how great working with them has been. They suggested themselves a statewide streamlining effort that would be within their jurisdiction. That is the last part of the bill. It's a provision that keeps Commission's authority over the changes. And while Assemblymember Zbur has added a couple provisions that will still need to be worked out with the Commission, this was initially their very productive suggestion, so I hope you keep that in mind, because sometimes I think people maybe have more trust for the Commission than they do for the city or for our office. So I do really appreciate the way we've worked with the Commission, the way the Commission has worked with the city, and the way the city has worked with the Commission. And that sort of brings us to my little last slide here, which is, we think that we're in a great position here. After 40 years, Santa Monica and the Commission have a framework in place and a clear path to LCP certification. And that MOU is in your packet. If you're here and if you're on Zoom, you can get it from the City Council agenda from the meeting yesterday, the 26th. We think we have smart incentives, and I'm not saying everyone's going to agree, but AB 1740 now, the new redesigned one, offers interim exemptions with a meaningful backstop to help ensure the LCP gets certified. And we think the goals are aligned. Both parties expect the LCP to be certified well before July 2029, and that's based on what both parties have said in writing, not just our office or the city. And the housing exemption there is an additional incentive, not the expectation. I'm very curious what people think about this. I personally feel like this is a pretty new bill, a pretty different bill than what we had before. I think that the LCP certification is very exciting. I think the Assembly members are excited about it. And moving toward an LCP, we hope, will be really exciting. I'm sure there's a lot of comments in the Zoom about how fantastic this is. And I will turn it over to Councilmember Raskin to talk about the MOU.
We're going to hear the presentations from next up from Councilmember Raskin, and then we'll have the questions opportunity at that point. I'll give you one. If anyone else didn't get a packet who's here, I have some more over there. I'll bring them.
To the chair, we're going to, for the program, we're going to take the second speaker, and then we will go to the questions.
Right now, we're not really doing the for or oppose. We're presenting what the updates have been since the discussion at the Legislative Committee.
I'll say, folks, I'm not taking a position pro or con. I'm just here to share information. And before I do, I want to acknowledge my colleague in the room here, Councilmember Lana Negrete. I understand Mayor Terosas and Dan Hall are on Zoom. Is there anybody else here on Zoom? Well,
can't really tell.
In any event, if there are four of us here, obviously we can't, talk policy as a city council. But I was asked to share just a quick update about the vote that we took last night about the MOU. But before we get there, I do want to acknowledge that there has been a lot of community activism and involvement on this issue. I've been involved with this. Lana, I know you've been involved with this. Dan and Carolyn have also been involved with this in different capacities. And what has really happened over the last month or so is that we were able to open up a dialogue with the California Coastal Commission and restart our discussion about our local coastal program. And one thing I want to point out for folks is that the LCP, the local coastal program, is zoning for the coastal zone. It is the height limits, it is the density standards, it is other development standards that deal with coastal access and other things involving coastal resources. And so once we have a certified LCP, the new amendments to the bill clarify that projects will have to go through the coastal development permitting process once we have that certified LCP. So I'm very grateful for the work that our colleagues in the Coastal Commission have done, folks in Rick's office have done, to get a pathway now where once we get that certified LCP, all projects in the coastal zone, including housing, will go through the permitting process. And we heard last night, and Lana, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jing said that they're looking at, I think, about a year to year and a half time horizon for getting the LCP certified, which is really exciting. This is something that our city has been working on ever since we've had the Coastal Act. We have a mostly finished draft, or actually it really is finished, draft of the 2018, we did in 2018 of our land use plan. We have to add in some additional local zoning standards and update it for 2026. But we've made a lot of progress. And when we approved the MOU, we did it with the understanding that we'd be working collaboratively on an expedited process to get this across the finish line. So, among the folks in the City Council, we have a range of opinions about where, these policy decisions should line up with respect to coastal permitting, all these things. Again, there are four of us here, so we can't get into a policy discussion. I'll just say that these amendments now provide a pathway where all projects, housing projects, everything, will go through and require the local coastal permitting process. And I know for some of us, that was a goal. to get a version of the bill where housing projects would go through the check of getting a coastal development permit. And this bill now provides a pathway for doing that. So I'm excited about that. I'll say, I think we'll have some more question and answer for this. I can answer some more questions about the Coastal Act specifically, but we have some major things coming up for the city that are very important for our economic recovery and vitality, big events, some big coastal infrastructure needs. And so this bill also provides a pathway for getting an LCP that addresses that. And I'm really excited for the collaborative efforts that have happened with us, with our counterparts at the Coastal Commission. And I know that there's more work to be done, but I'll end it there.
Great. Thanks so much, Ellis. Okay, so I see the hands up. So here's the situation. We have someone waiting to address the club. Then we're going to come back to questions out of respect for the candidates' time. Tony and Chai will come back to you just in a few minutes, but right now on Zoom we have Nichelle Henderson, our endorsed candidate. She'd like to say hi, then we're going to come right back to this. We just want to say hello to her, okay? Nichelle, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Santa Monica Dems. I wanted to say hello. We're 6 days out to the election. Want to thank you all so much for your endorsement of my campaign and your support, and looking forward to celebrating with you all next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nichelle, and we'll see you on Saturday for the canvass. Okay, so now let's get right back to it. The plan now is we'll allow for questions, a motion could be made, and Isabel, do you want to come up to help me with this part? I see also hands on the Zoom already, so let me address Ann. Ann, go ahead.
Oops. Hey, thanks everybody. Is Robbie still there? I had a question for him about how the bill would operate if it's July 1st, 2029, and for some reason we don't have a certified LCP. And I guess the question also relates to the original intent of the bill. So we've talked a lot about the boundaries of the zone, or the boundaries of the zone under this bill, but what about the east-west boundaries? I want to understand what could happen in the coastal zone west of PCH. So could somebody, it's July 2029, can somebody buy a house or houses there and tear it down and turn it into a really tall building? And I guess second part of that question is the intent to grab some of the beach parking lots for housing? So tell me about west of PCH under the original intent of the bill, and then if we don't have an LCP in July 2029. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked this question because I think it's important to address, because a lot of people don't know what we mean when we say the appeal jurisdiction. So that's up to the first public road. So nothing seaward of that would apply. So beach parking lots are not in this bill, and they're not included in that. And in terms of what would happen July 1st, 2029, if the LCP is not certified, then the housing exemption would take effect. And that would be between the first public road and 4th Street, which is the border of the coastal zone, and between Wilshire and Pico Boulevard. Did that answer your question? Sorry, I'm looking at the, but.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let me just add real quick, as Ellis was asking here. The LCP is zoning that would have to be approved by the majority of the city council. The 2018 land use plan does not have any plans at all to upzone our parking lots. I, for one, will not be voting to upzone parking lots. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I don't think we have any plans to turn parking lots into something other than parking lots, except insofar as there is other potential public infrastructure. But I'll point out too that the exemption from the permitting in the amended version of the bill, it does not apply again between the sea and the first public road, within 100 feet of a wetland or within 100 feet of an environmentally sensitive area.
Okay, thanks. So Ray Jackson's here from the Coastal Commission, if you wanted to share a couple words, yeah.
Good evening, Santa Monica. Ray Jackson, fellow elected from a neighboring city, Hermosa Beach, California, also your coastal commissioner. I'm going to sit down because I'm a relaxed kind of guy. So I represent LA and Orange County on the Coastal Commission. And just like an elected, I work for the people. And, the people's interest is always my primary concern. And, thank you for the opportunity to speak. There aren't many things, they say the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I think AB 1740 was the Lord's way of getting me to drive from Hermosa Beach to get me into church tonight. So I'm honored to be here, and I'm motivated and energized because the thing I've learned over the last couple of months is I love the energy and the effort and the passion and how involved you are as a community, and that speaks volumes. And I've had great chats with Robbie. I like Robbie. I understand, I'm not going to shoot the messenger here, but I think the message is wrong. And, I'm not going to go point by point. At the end of the day, you all are very smart. You're very engaged. I'm not going to go through point by point. But at the end of the day, what happened with the city of Santa Monica and the Coastal Commission is a big deal. It's a really big deal. In 2 weeks, they were able to get an MOU that says, hey, listen, we are committed to getting this over the goal line. We are committed. We're going to make this happen, right? That's a big deal. And the thing that, the reason I think, and I'm just speculating here, why there was no LCP before is because you didn't have the motivation and you didn't have the support. You've got it here. You've got a Coastal Commission that says, let's do it, and they want to do it. The Coastal Commission does not want to be in the permitting game. We don't have an LCP in Hermosa Beach. We are behind the 8 ball as well. So that means anytime you want to do something, you got to go through the Coastal Commission. So they want you to get your LCP. Believe me, that's the motivation is there for them to help you get to where you want to get to. So you've got the motivation there. You've got a committed council. I can't speak to what happened historically, but you got a committed council who showed on Tuesday when they had that unanimous vote that we are committed to making this happen. And third, and probably the most important ingredient, is you've got a committed community. And that's really what matters, because there are going to be some hard choices that are going to need to be made, right? And not everybody's going to be happy, but at the end of the day, if not everybody's happy, it's a good bill. So you've got the makings, you've got the ingredients to make this happen. I don't think, I was sitting back there and in my head spinning, I'm like, all right. And, one of my frustrations with Sacramento, I'm an apolitical politician. Every time you talk to a politician, you go up there to Sacramento and you have these legislative meetings, and they always go, Ray Jackson, city of Hermosa Beach, last year authored 37 bills and co-authored 27. And, you hear that from every single one. It's like a badge of merit to say how many pieces of legislation they've authored. And I always go, so what? And no offense to Robbie and Assemblymember Zabur, but I'm sitting back there going, okay, so what? Why do we need this bill? This bill is no longer necessary, right? What the city of Santa Monica did and the Coastal Commission did is what needed to be done. I didn't necessarily agree with the mechanism, but it needed to be done, and it is done. Now to have this bill out there for the sake of having a bill makes no sense. And yes, everyone is committed. I am certain I would bet my firstborn that it's going to happen. However, we know there's always a however. Stuff happens. It's a developer's dream if this thing doesn't happen, and they can drive a truck through that window between the time 2029, whenever this bill would go into effect for developers and whatnot. So, I am confident as a member of the Coastal Commission, knowing the staff, knowing Dr. Kate, and if you please read her memo that talks about why the Coastal Commission remains opposed to this legislation. But, you've got all the ingredients to make it happen, right? And I don't think those ingredients were there before, and that's why I don't think this bill is necessary. And I just appreciate the opportunity to be here to give you my perspective. And again, there aren't many things that get me to drive from Hermosa to Santa Monica on a Thursday, what's tonight? Thursday, Wednesday, it's all a blur. But, anyway, I really wanted to come and talk to you and look you all in the eye and to tell you that you don't need this bill. You've got what you need, and that is what's in the best interest of Santa Monica. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. I know maybe this wasn't the right protocol, but I just appreciate the opportunity, and I can talk all day, all night. And real quickly, if I can, I'm a reform lawyer and a politician. That means you give me a mic, I'm going to go all day. So, but I'll be real brief. Before I was a coastal commissioner, I'm still elected, and everything I heard was coastal commission, coastal commission. Reason we can't get anything done is because of the coastal commission. Then you start asking the question. You go, okay, well, tell me why. Show me this. Show me that. You said it's the coastal commission. Show me where the issues are or were with the coastal commission and then you realize, oh, well, it wasn't the coastal commission. Your application was incomplete, or you didn't do this, and because again, the coastal commission's job is to help you get to yes early, often, and our Ashley has got copies of the Coastal Commission's report that basically talks about the application process and how long things take, because before I was on the Coastal Commission, I was one of those guys going, Coastal Commission sucks, it's the reason we can't get anything done, blah, blah, blah. And then you realize, oh my gosh, it's our developers, it's our contractors. There are a lot of reasons why things don't get over the finish line. The Coastal Commission is not always the boogeyman. But if they are, Dr. Kate, our executive director, wants to know. I want to know, because I want to help you as your elected rep, your appointed Coastal Commissioner, get to yes. So this helps you get to yes, and why 1740, I think, is no longer necessary. So I'll stop.
Okay, great, thank you. So now we'll continue with the questions. I'm going to go in order, if it's okay, with those whose hands are already up. So first up is Andrew Hoyer.
All right, thank you, John. And I missed the name, but
come up. Okay.
I very much appreciate the last speaker whose name I missed, but actually you didn't break protocol. You corrected it. We needed an alternative position to this so that we could debate it properly. And I really was just going to make a statement about the fact that I don't appreciate Santa Monica being singled out. And as much as I thought Rick Zabur was a very good politician and very good for us, this bill, if this bill does not get pulled, I will not be voting for Rick Zabur this year. I don't care who his opponent is. I'm going to be ticking the other box just as a protest vote, and that's how we got Trump in the first place. Second, if this bill, as much as I even more support Ben Allen, our local boy for insurance commissioner after Consumer Watchdog recently mentioned him, not endorsing him, but mentioned him greatly, if he doesn't kill this bill in the Senate, I am not voting for him either. And that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. And now we'll go to Tricia or Nikki. You guys, whoever was first. I saw both your hands up. Okay, Ray answered the question. So Nikki, did you have one, or you're good?
Thank you. I thought there was a line online, but okay. I would like to address the framing of that we keep hearing, that the amendments show that the process is working and that we should give Assembly members Zabur credit for improvements. I respectfully disagree. Is the camera here? There.
You're on camera right now.
There?
It's from here, wherever you look, someone will get. He's got you.
Okay. You do not get credit for making a bill less bad when you wrote it behind our backs to begin with. The city co-sponsored legislation that would strip our coast of independent oversight. No agenda item, no public vote, no community input. That undemocratic behavior cannot be brushed under the rug simply because the bill got narrower. It should disqualify the whole bill. The LCP carrot is a ruse. Yes, the fact that the LCP process has restarted is a good thing, and our staff should have been working on this all along, not spending time trying to gut the Coastal Act. It is no comfort regarding the stick of 1740. The only reason to keep this bill alive is to threaten the Coastal Commission, and the threat that creates perverse incentives. It could push the Commission to accept terrible provisions rather than get cut out entirely. This isn't leverage on the city, it's extortion of the Commission. Think about what this actually means in practice. The city could literally take the provisions from the first public draft that we all don't like and package them into an LCP, sit on it for 2 years, and if the commission doesn't certify that, the Coastal Act is gutted in Santa Monica. And before you say, oh, they wouldn't do that, we know they would because they already wrote it. But more importantly, it doesn't matter because they could. This bill has been drafted to make that possible. If they meant to prevent it, or they would have drafted that in to foreclose the possibility entirely, but they didn't. Our city does not act in good faith on this. It's why people here don't trust them. The same staff and council that worked to eliminate the Coastal Act in the first place will be the ones deciding what gets certified. They can put forward something that shouldn't be certified. The commission rejects it as it should in order to protect the coast for all, and in doing so loses its authority. The trap is built into the design. Additionally, we don't know how this layers with other state housing bills and how little control we will end up with. And without that analysis, we can't possibly support it. Finally, the right way to address any legitimate concern with existing legislation is to amend the existing legislation, not to exempt everything from the legislation. No elected official representing Santa Monica should have even considered exempting us from the Coastal Act. Now more than ever, the law matters. Protecting our community assets matter. We have a UFC fighting ring going up on the White House lawn, which really would be permitted here without any sort of independent authority. We need to stay clear. This bill has no reason left to exist, and we should oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Okay, so now I see 3 hands up right now on Zoom. We're going to take those 3 and then see if there's a motion at that time. Darlene's up first.
Okay, thank you. A couple of questions. The bill refers repeatedly in the revised portions to the executive director shall do this and the executive director shall do that. Who is the executive director?
Who is that question for?
Dr. Kate Huckelbridge. She is phenomenal, and she has
Okay,
been.
so she's with the Coastal Commission.
Right.
I just didn't know where that title was coming from.
Yeah, she is the executive director.
Okay, so it's the Coastal Commission. Okay, that answers that question for me. Thank you. And then the other one I had is that this exemption that they're putting in the bill, that if the LCP isn't done and the Coastal Commission, if they don't come together, then they're going to allow permitting as a cudgel against the city and the commission if they don't get it together. But the reality is it's against the people of Santa Monica. It's not just the city or it's not just the Coastal Commission. There are a few individuals, but it's the city that will suffer, the people of the, so I don't think that should be there, and I oppose the bill. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Darlene. We'll go to Councilmember Negrete, had her hand up next, and then just to be clear, after that, we'll go to Victor and Ellen, and then that's it for the questions right now.
Stand in a certain spot.
You can do whatever you want. We got cameras everywhere.
My question is for the Coastal Commissioner, just for some clarity, because as we were in limbo for decades, as many coastal cities are, to create their LCP. So, outside of this new invigorated opportunity to get this done, we've been held up in the past. So I guess the question is, does the Coastal Commission, or you as a commissioner, can you at least say that modernization is maybe needed to get things to move quicker? And if so, are there benchmarks that exist to make sure that without a bill's pressure and with the current invigorated excitement around doing an LCP, can we count on the fact that A, this will continue to move quicker without pressure from a bill like this? Because that's kind of the triggering point, right? That people are saying this bill is going to pressure this getting done in 1.5 to 2 years, as opposed to, or 1 year to 1.5 years, as opposed to in the past it went back and forth for 10 years. So what, if this bill goes away, what will the benchmarks be? What will the incentive be to get this done in a quick way? And also, I just want to understand, as you've taken on this role, I understand that it's both parties and there's bureaucratic processes on both sides that probably need some amending. The city of Santa Monica has been doing a lot of that to promote economic recovery. Would you say that is the Coastal Commission taking any positions to cut back red tape to invigorate quicker turnarounds and things like that with permits.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there. Let me go up here real quick. With regard to timelines, lots of misinformation out there. I mean, when I first got involved, I heard Raising Cane's has been delayed in this city because of the Coastal Commission. So I asked the question to the city. I said, is there any truth to that? Because if there is, let's see. Again, as your representative of the Coastal Commission, I can talk to the doctor and the staff and go, hey, what's the issue with the delay for Raising Cane's? You know what they came back with, the city said? There's no issue with the Coastal Commission, right? So again, the Coastal Commission is the boogeyman for a lot of things. Please look at the report. It's on the Coastal Commission website that talks about the timelines. It's very important. The Coastal Commission wants you to get your LCP. That's why there were almost $400,000 of taxpayer dollars that were expended over the years to help you get your LCP, right? For whatever reason, it didn't get over the finish line. The commitment is there to get over the finish line. With regard to streamlining, yes, there are always ways to get better. And if there is a better way, then let's figure it out. But the best way for Santa Monica to get things faster is to get the LCP, because then we're out of the loop. You are doing your own permitting. So, again, it's the coastal, but, here's the opportunity now to get the LCP done, and then we're just on the sidelines watching. Okay. Did I answer all your... Well, but the reality is we are. If you watch, for those who are interested, the Coastal Commission meets once a month, 3-day meetings up and down the coast. Please come. Please visit. Please comment. Watch the videos on YouTube. Talk to our staff. The staff has a help desk. They have a help line, right? So a lot of folks say, I heard, and you get electeds who go, the reason blah, 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 economic development, it's the Coastal Commission. At the end of the day, it's a relationship between the Coastal Commission and the municipalities. Again, I'm an elected of a municipality that doesn't have an LCP, so I feel your pain. But you can't keep saying it's them, when at the end of the day, the LCP is going to ameliorate all the issues. And one last final thing, and it's not a jab, but it is essentially a jab. With all the time that has been spent on this bill, and I've asked this question, I said, what specific projects does Santa Monica want to do that are being impeded by the Coastal Commission? And I said, give me the projects, right? What projects are there? And I'm getting a little pissed off now, so pardon me. I'm sorry. I'm a little fired up, and I probably shouldn't have used that word, but I'm not really a politician, so sorry. I said, what specifically are you trying to accomplish? Where are the projects? There are no projects. What specifically you want to do? So, they want to do this and they want to do that. And I said, that's great. Let's help you get to yes. And there could have been an application and a process and an approval for any of those things that the assembly members talked about doing. That could have been done. 2 months, 3 months. Look at the timeline from application to approval. It's in here right now. So we could have obviated 1740 if we'd have just done a regular coastal development permit application without an LCP. We could have had things done. So last thing I'll leave you with is the 50th anniversary of the Coastal Act. The reason we have this iconic coastline, I'm from Florida, the reason we don't look like Florida with private beaches and condos and high-rises everywhere and golf courses is because of the Coastal Act. And 1740 is a direct attack on that. So,
okay. Thanks.
Sorry.
No. We really appreciate you being here. So, look, like I said, I'm trying to be respectful of everybody's time. We're going to. Thank you. So, no, thank you. But we're going to limit it to 2 more questions, okay? So, Victor Fresco, you're up. Don't worry, they're both on Zoom.
Yeah, thank you.
Victor, you're up.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for being here. And Ray Jackson, thank you for driving all the way down. I felt like we buried the lead as a lifelong Democrat, meaning I'm a lifelong environmentalist. The Coastal Commission is against 1740 in its current form. And that's all I need to know. That's all any of us should need to know, right? We're not experts in land use and zoning and policy. If the premier agency that's tasked with protecting our coastline is against this bill, we have to be against it. Secondly, I just want to say, the gentleman from Barr's office was talking about that this incentivizes these 2 groups to come to an agreement on the LCP. it's holding our coastline hostage. If they don't, right? You're saying if they don't come to an agreement, our coastline is turned over for 2 years to the council and developers and anything goes. So I don't want my coastline to be held hostage to these two bureaucracies, either of which is capable of foot dragging, to come to an agreement. That's crazy. Why would I want my coastline to be hostage to that? So Coastal Commission, yes, that's all that's on the table tonight. Are we going to kneecap the Coastal Commission, or are we going to get behind it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Victor. And final words from Ellen.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I hope. Yeah, I'm terribly confused. The area that we're talking about between Wilshire and Pico and Ocean Avenue and I believe it's 4th Street, that's just downtown Inc. What about the rest of our coastline in the city? I don't understand. I mean, I'm just so confused. I'm voting no. And when I'm confused, I vote no. This has not been given to the entire city of Santa Monica. I mean, what about the people north along Ocean Palisades Park area there, and development going in there, and restaurants going in the hotels that are there? What about Main Street down on south of us along there? Does that become part of the LCD? Why not? I'm just totally confused. When I'm totally confused, I'm not for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes the comment section and questions. So now we will see if there's an opportunity to entertain a motion. We already said multiple times that we wrapped up the questions. It doesn't matter how long she's been holding her hand up. I already said that we were limiting the question at a certain time. Yeah, I can pull the map. Yeah. Yeah, please do. Hang on. Well, I'm going to pull up the map. Let's hear the motion. Take it to Ash.
Who was it that made the motion? Okay.
I make a motion to oppose and not support 1740.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion made.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. I'll now share it for reference point, the coastal.
Okay, so the motion was made by Ashley and then seconded by Nikki. Ashley Olsen, seconded by Nikki Koloff.
Okay, I wanted to answer the question of the last question. I had meant to show this slide at the very beginning, kind of slipped my mind. And many people know what the coastal zone is, but maybe not everyone. So the red area is what is considered the coastal zone, and most of the bill refers to that area. So up to 4th Street for most of Santa Monica, up to Lincoln for that part. The, I guess, controversial part after 2029, what would be exempt from the housing zoning is not that whole red area, just from Pico to Wilshire, and also not including the yellow part, which is considered the appeal zone, so that's excluded. So any new development is in just a few square blocks between Pico and Wilshire, west of 4th, and east of Ocean. So that was for the lady who asked the question, in case anybody else had that question.
Sure.
Is the motion to oppose the bill itself?
Yeah.
Or is it to oppose any look at, is the motion to oppose the bill itself, or is it something different than that?
No, as I understand, the motion is to oppose AB 1740, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Can I request I would like to request a secret ballot, please,
Yes,
John.
absolutely. It's all ready to go. So if there's no additional questions, then I'm going to prepare the ballot. We're going to have a 20-minute voting period. since it's getting kind of late, I don't want to extend it much beyond that. So everyone get ready to vote. But it'll be by election buddy. And while we're voting, we're going to hear from a couple of our candidates who are here. So are we good to proceed with the vote? Okay.
How
So
do we vote
everybody
at
get
home?
ready to check your emails in a moment. I'm going to be setting the ballot out in a minute. So let's first welcome up our state Senate candidate, Dr. Cheyenne Roy.
Go up there, do I,
Yeah. Come up here, man.
So you can see me from anywhere. I won't take too long, but just wanted to thank the club for your support, and just want to encourage everybody on the Zoom here in the room to go vote by Tuesday. Turnout has been incredibly low throughout the state, including in this Senate district, and it's time. It's time to vote. And so, and Santa Monica has a lot of power. Santa Monica is about 10% of the population in the Senate district, and we expect it to be close to a quarter of the vote because Santa Monicans vote, and so you just have to do it. And I appreciate the club's support so much. It's been such a momentum driver for this past year, and thank you so much for all your individual support. Fundraising, walking, canvassing, phone banking, all of that. So many people on the Zoom and in this room have helped so much. And so I'm very grateful, and a few more days, and just vote by Tuesday. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Shai. Everybody, we went out and knocked on doors with Shai. He was there this weekend. We're going to be there again. Come by on Saturday to knock or in Santa Monica. Let's hear from another Santa Monica alumni who's going to be running statewide. Let's get him elected treasurer, our own Tony Vasquez. And while he's coming up, the vote is live. You should have your email. Let's vote, and let's hear from Tony.
Thank you. And I also wanted to thank this club. I got my start here back in 1990 when you first endorsed and supported me when I ran for city council the first time in 1990. And then back again in 2012, and then as your mayor in 2015. I currently sit on the State Board of Equalization, but running currently for to be your next treasurer. And I've been up and down the state. I'm going to be in San Diego for the next couple days. I'll be here actually checking in with our locals here over the weekend. But at the end of the day, what Shai is saying is so true. We got to turn out the vote. As I'm traveling up and down the state, the turnout's been really tough. And when I talk to especially your average voter, one of the confusions, I think, and one of the frustrations a lot of them have is they don't know who to vote for on the governor's side. There's just so many people undecided. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to see a big push, but it's not going to come until probably the last couple of days and on June 2nd. So as much as we have early voting available, I just don't see it happening in the numbers that I thought it would be happening prior to June 2nd. So you really need to get out, especially everybody's got their own circle of friends and everybody's got their followers. You got to start blasting it out and make sure people turn out to vote. Thank you for your support. Really appreciate it. And whatever I can do to help in the future, you can count on me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Tony. And did anyone get a ballot yet? Yes. Okay, good. So they're out. If you agree with the motion, you want to vote yes. If you disagree with the motion, you want to vote no.
Some of us haven't gotten our ballots at home on our email.
Oh, yeah, there's also...
I have gotten my ballot.
Mine came in just a few moments ago. Victor, maybe refresh your page.
Yeah, I did. I'll do it again. No.
Okay. Hey. Oh yeah, that's the. So you gotta check. Oh, you remember? So just check it with me.
Hi, sometimes you
Don't
have
forget
to
you
look
have to
in,
submit
not in the
twice.
spam, but in the promotions for your email. And I'm confused about, are we opposing or disopposing the motion which is to oppose it?
Okay,
Is
let me
that
check.
correct? I'm very confused.
Did you RSVP? Did you RSVP for this meeting? Okay, let me check to see what's going on.
Ellen, if you don't support 1740, vote yes on the motion.
If I don't like that whole idea of ZERS, I vote yes. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Don't
John,
forget to submit twice.
if
I'm
we
voting
didn't,
yes to oppose the bill.
Okay.
if we didn't RSVP for the meeting, does that mean we don't get to vote? We don't get a ballot?
That is correct.
Oh,
Oh, I didn't RSVP. Can you do a hand vote? We're members.
It's in the meeting announcement that you need to RSVP in order to get a
Oh,
ballot.
I never got that. I never got an announcement.
can Victor RSVP right now so he can vote?
He can try, you know, if he gets his RSVP in before it closes, there might be a chance he'll get to vote, but.
Victor, your RSVP should be on the Zoom confirmation. Is that right, John, or where is the RSVP?
The RSVP is in the meeting announcement.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't think I got a meeting announcement.
It came out this morning.
No.
If you're a member in good standing.
I am. I mean, I went to the website to sign up, or I went to the website to get the Zoom address.
When was that?
Like 3 days ago?
Okay, you have to be a member in good standing for 30 days, and that might.
Oh,
be
I am. I've been a member for months,
okay.
for like over a year. Yeah.
Can someone please send Victor the meeting invitation, and then he can simply click on the RSVP?
I
just
Somebody got the Zoom link. Didn't they get that by RSVPing? So maybe it's in spam. Have you checked your spam?
I got an invitation here. Ann just sent it. Thank you.
Great.
See where I RSVP.
Denise, you have the Zoom link. You're on the Zoom meeting.
I know. Well, here I just RSVP.
No, I'm saying to Janice that she was asking for the Zoom link.
No, I am. I'm saying somebody who's saying that he didn't RSVP, but he's got the Zoom link, must have RSVP'd. So maybe he should look in his spam folder. I got my ballot and sent it back.
Okay, or somebody could have forwarded the Zoom link. It's not that.
He said he went to the website to get the Zoom link.
Here, I'm RSVPing right now.
But check your spam folder. Maybe you got it already.
So, John, can you accept Victor's RSVP?
I don't think.
Patricia, can you accept it?
Paying attention to us now, but Victor, if you send it in right this second while the voting is still open, it should.
I did.
count like all the others.
I just sent an RSVP in.
Yeah. So my guess is that it's covered. Did you get a confirmation at the end of the? Oh, you haven't gotten your ballot yet.
No.
Okay.
Check spam for your ballot, though.
I will.
I didn't get a ballot either. It's Nicholas Scott. I didn't get a ballot either.
And the same thing, did you RSVP for the meeting?
I did, yes, I
And G.
Can you send me the ballot, Nicholas Scott?
Hey, Nate, you want to put on a little bit of music while we're voting?
I don't know who the woman was who just asked about.
The woman was Nicola Scott, myself.
Oh, okay. And you RSVP?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and Denise is reminding people to check their spam folder.
Okay. Let me see. What's your name?
Well, the other messages from you came in, but not the ballot.
Angela, let's see what's going on. Did you RSVP to the meeting?
The ballot comes, I think, from Election Buddy. It doesn't come from the Democrats. You'll let me know.
Ms. Hoffman, this is Vladimir Shemi. I got RSVP, but I can't get any ballot to vote.
The halfway point, we're at the 10-minute mark. 10-minute mark.
$59,000 in available credit. He's fucking crap.
Ms. Hoffman? Hello, Ms. Hoffman. This is Vladimir Shemi. Ms. Hoffman?
Yes.
This is Vladimir Shemi. I don't get my ballot. I RSVP and I got the email. But I don't get any ballot to vote.
Okay. Let me see if I can reach John.
I don't mind to just say my vote. I don't care, but I just want to make sure I get counted.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna. It isn't gonna work that way.
Yes.
Victor, have you gotten your ballot yet?
It's not in my spam either.
Okay, thank you for checking that.
Thank
Oh,
you.
it's,
Let me see if I
should
can
take
reach
some.
John.
Yeah. Now it's always put submit. It did go through a job.
What's your email address, George? Sure. What's your email address? It's wrong. George, feature, number 2. Okay. I remember getting that.
So you should reply quickly and say,
I have something easy to tell you. Okay, you got it. Yep.
But in all fairness, that's not their fault. Because it was coming from Election Buddy, not from the Santa Monica Democratic Club.
I forgot.
In mine didn't send it to John, but who knows why.
Your name is Nicola Scott.
Right.
I'm trying to find out who hasn't gotten ballots yet.
I have not.
Right, I've got you. I'm checking with the membership.
You have v.fresco2 at verizon.net.
Okay, great.
John?
All good?
I'm trying to reach him by text. I'm trying to reach
Yeah, I saw his name on there at some point. So. Yours is on. Kurt, hang on, I'll find out in a second with Kurt. Kurt, oh, okay. I'm going to take care of Kurt. I tell Kurt to expect a new email.
Okay, so Ms. Hoffman, what about me?
You know what? There's a lot of
Kurt put a typo in his email.
I'm trying to reach him by text. I know someone who's there. Let me try her.
Okay, Kurt's good.
Ms. Hoffman, do you hear me? Ms. Hoffman.
Yeah?
Ms. Hoffman, do you hear me?
Oh, John, I'm trying to reach you for a couple of people here who... Can you hear me, John? John? John.
It's very loud over there. It's very loud.
Patricia, do you have his cell phone number?
Hello?
I have his cell phone number. I don't.
Try calling him.
Yeah.
Try to call
I've been
him
trying to call
and
him.
see if he'll answer.
Okay.
All right, goodbye.
I'll fail. I'm trying to reach other people who are in the room.
What?
John, can you hear me now? John? Yoo-hoo. John Cat? John? I need you. John? What is your name again, please? On Jayla's phone, what is your name?
My name is Raleigh. I found it and I'm voting right now. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're voting? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay.
I already said that email is
I still haven't got it.
Okay, I just sent a note
I got
to
it. Thank
Michael
you so much.
Sola. Since the registration is automated, that it should have happened right away. John?
Victor?
Victor. Yeah.
I'm just trying to like as like your name and okay, saying that out.
Last call, everybody vote.
I got it, Patricia. Thank you. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. Thank you. A lot of work.
Victor, were you able to vote? Because
Yeah,
it's
I
last
got it.
call. Okay, good. Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I got the email and I voted too. Thank you so much.
Hope we
Thank
can
you,
get it in
Patricia.
time. It might be too late.
John, hopefully, John? Thank you.
Okay, folks, let's reconvene. We have our results. Nate? Okay, everybody, we have our results. Let's take a look. Here are the results. Oh, I forgot
John,
to share the
what was
screen.
the threshold that was required?
Okay, Measure ER, congratulations, has been endorsed with 76% of the vote. That's all everyone wanted to see, right? And the opposed position has passed with 66 votes. That's 60% of the vote. So congratulations to the opposed side. The club has taken an official position. Okay. So now the motion has achieved the required threshold and is adopted. The Santa Monica Democratic Club has therefore taken an opposed position on AB 1740, and I want to thank everybody for your thoughtful and respectful discussion. I also As I said, I appreciate that the members approach this from a variety of sincerely held perspectives. And regardless of where members landed tonight, I hope we can all continue to moving forward together on the broader work ahead of us as Democrats in Santa Monica, especially with the June 2nd primary ahead of us just in a few days and our endorsement process continuing shortly thereafter. So thank you to all of our guests tonight. As a reminder, July 1st and July 8th are our next two meetings for the local candidate debates. A lot of people in this room will see you up here on the stage. On July 5th, we'll vote to endorse City Council, Rent Control, School Board, College Board, maybe more. And if you're not a member, sign up by June 15th to vote on that night. June 15th. Sign up. We are adjourned. Thank you.